What's going on, y'all? It's your man Sapreme, and welcome back to another episode of The Real Rap Show. And this is episode 49 of The Real Rap Show, 27th and 12th, the story of the legendary Tunnel Nightclub. Now, before we get this episode started, I would like to say thank you to everyone who has been tuning in to The Real Rap Show since day one. Everyone in the comments, and also everyone that gives me great feedback about the show. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you can be notified whenever I drop a new episode of The Real Rap Show. Now let's get this started. Now, first and foremost, if you from New York and you was a regular at the Tunnel nightclub, I need you to sit back, relax, hit the like button right now. We about to get deep. But if you are not from New York and have never heard about the tunnel, you sit your ass back too. You about to hear some real shit. So y'all know the vibes already. I want to see paragraphs in that comment section. Tear that comment section up because I want to hear from New York. I want to hear from the people that actually partied at the tunnel every Sunday. Did you ever get into a fight at the tunnel? Did you ever get robbed at the tunnel? Did you ever see some wild shit go down inside the tunnel? Tear my comment section up. Hit the like button now. Y'all know where we going with this. The Tunnel nightclub opened up in 1986 and was inside the Chelsea Terminal warehouse. The club was built on a space that was once a railroad freight terminal. The Tunnel nightclub was owned by Boaz Aharani, a real estate developer, and Ellie Dayan, who was the former chairman of Bonjour International. But in 1990, Ellie Dayan sold the space to another developer named Marco Ricarda, who then sold it to a man who went by the name of Peter Gation. Yo, the Tunnel nightclub was the realest nightclub in New York City. You would hear about it on all the radio stations. All the DJs would mention it on mixtapes. You would hear rappers talk about it in songs, freestyles. Now, in the mid-90s, when the tunnel was at its prime, I was a professional shoplifter. I told y'all the story already. We was the flyest guys on the block. We had girls with us. We had on Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Fendi, Salvatore Ferragamo, Jay Lindbergh, Polo, Eddie Bauer, Gore-Tex, North Face, Avirexes, whatever that was high end, we had it. And that's just to give y'all a little history on who I was, my crew was, and how we looked at that time. Now, I had never been to like a real nightclub. We were into parties. We would go to like little house parties in the hood. You know what I'm saying? Shit like that. But there was this one particular day. It was a Sunday. We all was in the city. Everybody was out there getting money. We all made it back to the hood. We all was fly. We was sitting around just smoking, drinking. Everybody was looking real good. And somebody in the crew said, we all should go to the tunnel tonight. And I was a person that was deeply into the hip hop scene. And I had heard people like Mobb Deep and other rappers mention the tunnel in their songs. I knew it was a club, but I never knew where it was at. Then somebody that was with us had been to the club and they was like, yeah, it's up on 27th and 12th up in the city. Now we all sitting there talking about it, but we like, yo, it's a Sunday night. It's gonna be open tonight. And the person was like, yeah, the best night to go is on a Sunday. It be mad rappers up in there. And we was like, on a Sunday? Later on that night, me and 3 other people that I was with earlier that day decided to go to the tunnel. So me and my peoples get a cab and we are now headed to Manhattan to the tunnel. We done told the cab driver, turn the music up. We got a bottle of liquor in the car. We are very well dressed, so we already look like we got money. I didn't bribe the cab driver and gave him $25 extra to let us smoke weed in the car. Now, when we got out there, like I said, it was our first time coming to some shit like this. The person that told us about the club didn't come with us. When we got out there, all you seen was barricades and fly-ass cars coming down the street because you couldn't. Well, not all cars could turn down the block where the club was at because it was barricades. The only people they let come down that street was people that worked in the club, or if a rapper or a DJ or somebody like that wanted to park on the block right in front of the club, they was the only people allowed to drive, and the cops was the only people that was allowed to drive up that block because it was barricaded off. But it was the longest line that I had ever seen in my life. I mean, the line went from 12th Avenue all the way to 11th Avenue, sometimes around the corner. And this night that we went, it was so many people out there. I had never seen a line that fucking long. And I'm saying, damn, if we got to stand on that shit, we ain't gonna never get in the club. You see how long that shit is? We just out there looking at all the girls and all the cars, but we talking amongst ourselves like, yo, it's no way everybody on this line is gonna get inside this club. It's already after 12 o'clock. It's no way that everybody standing here is gonna get inside this place. Now, when you get on this line to the tunnel, if y'all can remember, please tear the comments up. Let's talk about this. On this line, there was 4 checkpoints of security. Every time you got to a different security, he would ask for ID. You would walk up a little bit further, and the line moved slow as hell. You would get to one security, he would go ID check. You show him the ID. You would walk up a little further, maybe another 30, 45 minutes. You would get to another security. He would go ID. And I didn't have a state ID. Everybody that I was with that night had ID except for me. And this is when we realized how wicked the outside of the tunnel was. Because everybody showed their ID. We're at the first security checkpoint and he's like, well, I don't know about your man. I don't know. Y'all got to give me $40 for him. The security guard was asking $40 for me to get past him without showing the ID. I want you to hit the like button. If y'all can remember this shit, please do not hesitate to let me know in the comments section. I would like to know, did you go through exactly what I'm talking about or worse? Because when the security did this, you did not have much time to sit there and think and debate. You know, you had seconds and he would either tell you to step off the line or you would pay the $40 or whatever they was asking to get past without the ID and just move on with the line. But now this is where things begin to get real mind-boggling, y'all, because when you would get to the next security checkpoint, the bouncer that would be standing there, he would then tell you that you got to pay him now, and you'd be standing there looking at him like, yo, what? I just paid your man down there $40, and these dudes would be so aggressive. They would look you right in the face. All they would have to do is yell down to the other guy and confirm that y'all just took care of him or whatever. These dudes would look you right in the face and tell you that they don't know nothing about the business you did with him. They don't know him. And you'd be standing there, like I said, they don't really give you much time to debate. This is the tunnel. So he would then tell you, he wants $30 now for you to get past him without the ID. And if you stood there and waited too long, he would kick you off the fucking line. I mean, yo, you would see dudes and sometimes women out there yelling and arguing at the bouncers after they didn't pay them a certain amount of money for one of their friends to get past without ID. And now the next bouncer is asking for more money and now they didn't got kicked off the line. A lot of people ended up going home and never even getting inside the tunnel because they couldn't get past those securities. A lot of people was like, yo, I'm not paying y'all 4 different times. Then when I get to the door, I gotta pay to get inside the club. A lot of people was really frustrated with those bouncers outside that tunnel. The tunnel security would also let people that was on the line pay them to skip the line. And being that the club was right by the water, especially in the wintertime, it would be freezing cold out there at night. And nobody really wanted to be standing out there in that line for a long time, and the party would be popping on the inside. So the security would allow people to pay them to skip the line. But like I said, when you would get to the next security checkpoint, you would have to do that same thing over again. If you wanted to skip the line and not wait, you had to pay that guy. And sometimes before people even got inside the tunnel, you would be then spent close to $150 to $200 just from skipping the line. If you didn't have ID, before you even got in the club, you had spent $175, $200. But just being out there on that line, you would see some of the biggest names in hip hop roll up in some of the most beautifulest cars and go inside the tunnel. And that alone made you want to wait on that line to see what was inside this place. People would travel from all over just to come to the tunnel. We would be on the line and we would meet girls from Connecticut, Jersey, DC, and we'd be like, yo, y'all came all the way down here just to go to the tunnel? And they'd be like, hell yeah. And the dopest part about going to the tunnel was, at that time, people was being discovered at the tunnel. If you came in, you had the right jewelry on, the right outfit, whether you was a male or female, and you had the right look, somebody in the music industry would approach you and ask you, yo, you rap, you sing, you make beats. I mean, people was being discovered in the tunnel that are in the music industry right now. So not only did people come to the tunnel to party, people came there to get recognized. And people would put on the best of the best clothing just to come there. The tunnel for hip hop was what Studio 54 was to disco in the 70s. That's what the tunnel was. There are 2 dope documentaries about Studio 54. Go on YouTube and type in Studio 54 documentary. Now back to the story. Now this whole just because one of y'all don't got ID, y'all gotta keep paying each bouncer until y'all get to the door thing was a problem for us. Because we was from the street, we was hustlers, we was young, we automatically put 2 and 2 together and say, yo, these dudes got a little operation going on out here with this if you ain't got ID thing. But we wanted to get inside the club, so we would pay the bouncers whatever little $20, $40 they was asking, until we got up to the door where you go inside the tunnel. So we would have our weed on us, our Dutch Masters. Now, when we would get inside the tunnel entrance, they had big security guys right there, metal detectors, and there was like a coat check that was right there. Now, the security would start checking you, patting you down. They would make you take your sneakers off. Sometimes they would say, take your socks off, which was crazy to me, but they would make you do that shit sometimes. Now, what they would do next would really piss people off, because after all the money you didn't pay to skip the line, and if you didn't have ID, once you got checked and all of that, they would always find your weed, right? They had like a box that was right there in the search area that had a hole at the top, and you would see them searching other people, finding the weed, and they would take the weed and drop it inside this fucking box that was sitting right there. And I would be thinking to myself like, yo, I wonder how much weed be in that box at the end of the night. But it used to piss people off because after all that money you didn't pay to get in here and skip the line, like I said, and all that, y'all telling me I can't bring my weed in here? So what the security would do was they would make you pay up to $50, depending on how much weed they would catch on you. Sometimes they would make you pay for the weed, but they would take all the Dutch Masters and throw the Dutch Masters in the box. And we'd be like, yo, what type of shit is y'all running in here? But like I was saying, you cannot argue with these dudes. Once you start to debate and put up a fight, these dudes will beat you the fuck up and throw your ass right out the club. So you would either let them take the weed and drop it in the box and you would go in the club without no fucking weed, or you had to pay them to go in with the weed. Now, after everything I just mentioned that you had to go through to get inside this club, it does not stop there, because this next part is crazy. I want everybody that been to Rikers Island, tear the comments up. I'm about to make a crazy comparison. And I figured this out when I was actually at the tunnel. And I was like, yo, it's crazy how this shit resembles that other shit so much. Tear my like button up. We about to get deep. Listen to this shit. Now, like I said, after they done took your weed, you done paid all this money to get in, all the shit you went through, or you done got in with your weed, you had to check your fucking coat. You could not go inside the club with your coat on unless you was a rapper, a DJ, a big celebrity, or something like that. Everybody else, it was mandatory coat check. You had to give them your coat. I don't care if you came in there with a fur coat on, whatever you had on, you had to check your fucking coat, man. Now, this shit right here is epic, y'all. This is for all my people that been to Rikers Island, C76 to be exact. Because anybody knows when you come into C76 off the street, they got inmates working right there by the intake where you have to give them your clothes and they give you your greens. Tear my like button up. We about to go there. They got inmates working in the clothes box with civilians' clothes. And I always looked at that as like, yo, how the fuck? Because what these niggas on the island would do, if you walked in there, you fresh off the street. I don't care if you come in there with a Averex on, North Face, whatever. When you walked in there, these two niggas that's working in there, they is the first niggas in the jail to see what you got on the street. Now you have to give these niggas you don't even know these niggas. You never met these niggas before a day in your life. They got two niggas that's locked up they wearing greens in there, taking your property, putting it in a fucking plastic bag that they gotta transport downstairs and put in something they call the clothes box. Now, niggas get robbed every day, minute of the hour in that fucking clothes box in C76. If you got on some dope shit and you walk in there, I want y'all to tear my comment section up if you got discharged from C76 and when they gave you your fucking bag, your coat, your pants, or whatever that you had on was not in that fucking bag. They had put some old bummy shit in there. Tear them comments up. And that's my word, y'all. The tunnel's coat check reminded me of when you getting your greens in C76. Because you giving your clothes to dudes you don't even know. These dudes is criminals. So when you come in the tunnel, and if you got beef with the security or you arguing with them because they took your weed, and you always seen dudes and women arguing with them for taking their weed. And if you got these niggas mad and they looking at you, whatever you got on, you had to take off that coat and put it inside the coat check. And this is my word, man. They would give you like a little ticket. If you got these niggas mad, whether it was right there at the coat check, when they was checking you, if you had on something nice, something name brand, when you would check your coat, as soon as you would walk inside that club, they would then go to the coat check girl and be like, yo, let me get that. And this girl would give them your coat and they would steal your shit and go stash it in the locker room somewhere. And at the end of the night, you mad drunk, you give the girl your ticket and she's like, yo, there's no coat back here. So now you arguing with you like, yo, what do you mean this? And they be really arguing with you and would argue you down and tell you that you didn't give them no coat. Because if you gave them a coat, they would have it back there. In all reality, they didn't stole your shit. And yo, word up, you'd be standing there arguing, going crazy because your brand new Averex they talking about is not back there. And you know damn well you gave them the coat. And like I said a while back, if you stood there and argued and made too much of a fuss, the security would step in and beat you up. After they done robbed you and took your coat, the same guys would rough you up, beat you up, and then throw you out the club. And then once you out there and they close the door, it's nothing you could do. I mean, literally, the shit used to go down just like that. It happened to me one night. I came in there and was riffing with the nigga in the front because he took the weed. And I was going in on the nigga and he was all in my face. They was about to beat me up. But they let me come in the club. I had on a brand new yellow and gray Gore-Tex North Face jacket. It was brand new. I had just got it like a day ago. Shit costed like $700. Yo, I'm arguing with the nigga, not even thinking that I still got to give them my coat. They let us in the club after the crazy argument. But at the end of the night, when I came and gave the girl my ticket, she said, ain't no jacket back here. And I remembered the girl's face when I gave her my jacket. And she looked me right in my eyes and she said, ain't no jacket back here. And I knew and we knew because we was dudes from the street that the coat check girl was working with the security dudes. And we remembered the argument from earlier. So the dudes that I was with, they was like, yo, son, we kind of laughed it off. They was just like, yo, son, don't even worry about that. You can get a new jacket tomorrow, but you already know what happened with that. You was arguing with the dude earlier. The jacket was brand new, so they got you for the jacket. Don't even stress it. It was cold at night, but we hopped in the cab and we left. But the tunnel security and that coat check operation that they had was the craziest shit I had ever seen in my life. To this day, I ain't never seen no club run no shit like what they was running at that coat check, and how them bouncers was charging people to skip the line and you had to pay if you didn't have ID. I ain't seen nothing like that to this day. But the tunnel's coat check always reminded me of C-76 because it was like the people that's supposed to be taking your property and putting it in safekeeping is gonna rob you. And you just willingly gave them the coat. But if you got inside the tunnel, it was the best party you had ever seen in your entire life. And with me and my peoples being who we were and what we was wearing at that time, when you walked in there, it gave you goosebumps because it was nothing but the best of the best. And when I say the best of the best, it was the best stick-up kids, the best credit card scammers, the best drug dealers, the best boosters. Everything was top-notch inside the tunnel. The way that shit was set up, I had never seen nothing like that. You seen rich niggas with jewelry. It was rappers in there. You seen Funk Master Flex up there. The soundtrack of those Sunday nights was absolutely amazing. You had them rich industry dudes. They would always come in there and hop on the mic and tell everybody that the bar is free for an hour. They would buy the bar for an hour or 2 hours, and you would see 1,000 people at one time just rushing the fucking bar for these free drinks. Niggas would be getting the chain snatched. It would be big ass fights. Melees would break out between groups of people. Niggas would be getting cut, stabbed. It was a shootout in there one night. But this shit would happen, and it was the only place where you would see some shit like this break out, where it would be blood on the dance floor. They would break the fight up, throw the niggas out or whatever, and the party would keep on going as if nothing fucking just happened. I don't know what it was about the tunnel, but you would get addicted to going there. Even though that shit was dangerous as hell, we would still go there every Sunday. You never knew who you would see at the tunnel. You never knew who would see you. I mean, just going there on some real shit inspired you. That shit motivated you. I don't care what you did. If you worked a 9 to 5, if you was a street hustler like me and my dudes was, when you got home from the tunnel, the next day you went harder at whatever you did, just off the simple fact. Last night, I was around a bunch of people that was getting to that bag. This is why I said the best of the best was inside the tunnel. The tunnel showed you who was really getting money, and it made people go harder the next day. When we would go back to the city, just off of what we saw in the tunnel, we would go in Manhattan and go on a fucking rampage to the point some of us would get locked the fuck up that day. That's how much of an impact that the tunnel had on us when we got back to the hood. The tunnel was the only club in New York City that you could go to and Jay-Z would pop up in there. Biggie, Foxy Brown, Lil' Kim, DMX, The Lox, and sometimes they would just grab the mic and give like a little mini concert, and people would go bananas, man. I'm talking about pandemonium on steroids. It would get so crazy, you would think you was at like a rock concert or something like that, watching Metallica or AC/DC or something like that. It felt like people were slam dancing with each other. Sometimes the crowd, it would get really out of control. A certain song would come on and niggas would get so crazy, I mean within seconds, you could just be in there chilling, enjoying the party, and before you know it, within seconds, you are trapped right in the heart of a Queens versus Brooklyn rumble. And niggas is throwing bottles, punches, niggas is getting flipped up in the air, they robbing dudes. A lot of people got hurt in the tunnel. Real talk. People that was just standing there minding their business and you was on the wrong side of the club at the wrong time. You had to be from the streets to know that when certain songs come on, niggas was gonna go crazy. Like when you heard Prodigy go, "Word up, son, word." When you heard that, you had to be from the streets to know, okay, let's get up against a wall or something because these niggas about to go crazy. As soon as Prodigy said to all the killers and the $100 billers, at that point right there, that's when a lot of shit, rest in peace to Prodigy, I love you, my guy, I love Mobb Deep, I'm a big fan of Mobb Deep, but a lot of them Queens records, that Mobb Deep shit, anything Mobb Deep came on inside the tunnel, especially shook ones. When Prodigy would say, "Word up, son, word," and you would hear that shit come on, you had to be smart to know, okay, Whether you was with all that rah-rah shit, but if you wasn't, you had to know, okay, let's slide over here by the wall, because if you was in the middle when that shit came on, it didn't matter who you was. If you wasn't with the live niggas that was going crazy, they popped on you. Yo, they had a bathroom in there that had a DJ inside the shit that men and women could use at the same time. And that right there blew our minds because we was like, yo, imagine what's going on inside of here. But you would see the most sexiest women. You seen people having a great time dancing. The tunnel felt like it was a dream. Also, you had to really, really be on point when it was time to leave the tunnel. And I used to always get mad, like, why do they got it set up like this? What they would do is nobody could leave. So the music would still be playing, but it would be 1,000 to 1,200 people all standing by this little door waiting for the security guard to let people start going out so people could start getting their coats. It was the most critical time because every time that people would just gather up by that door, it would be so many fucking people. Every time, I can't recall one time when nothing happened. Every time a fucking big ass fight would break out or somebody's chain would get snatched. So you had to really be on point when it was time to leave the tunnel. Then you had to get your coat. You had to give them the ticket. Like I said before, a lot of times people walked up there with the ticket and the girl said it wasn't no coat. It was a lot of situations where it was a lot of big, crazy fights that broke out right there at the coat shack. That exit, leaving that shit, every time you seen some crazy shit go down. Me and my peoples had to learn how to move inside the tunnel. We had to learn that after a couple of Sundays of us coming there, that soon as they lower that music down, we was the first people standing by that door. Because if you got trapped back there in that crowd, something always would pop off. But if you was right there in the front and we made sure that we was right there at the door looking right in the dude's face. So whenever the shit would pop off, he would go ahead, y'all. And sometimes we would be the first people to give the girl the ticket and get the hell out the club. And yo, when that crowd hit that street, it was seconds. You would see niggas scuffling, big crowds of people running, chicks running, and you had to get the hell up out of there. A lot of times niggas pull out guns, they start busting, but the police was always out there every Sunday night. And with the amount of shit that was happening, we knew, because like I said, we was dudes that was in the street, we was hustlers. We knew that they not gonna let this shit keep going on like this. Every Sunday somebody getting shot, stabbed, robbed. The city ain't gonna let this shit keep going on like this. People would leave the club and their car was stolen. It was the dopest nightclub New York City had ever seen, hip-hop had ever seen. But it was just too much stuff happening inside the tunnel and outside. Now, if y'all know more about this, let me know in the comment section. But I think they said what closed the tunnel was a dude got stabbed and killed out there. The media didn't mention anything about someone getting killed outside the tunnel. The media put out that the tunnel closed down because they couldn't afford to pay the rent anymore. In 2001, the Tunnel nightclub closed down for good. The owner, Peter Gation, was being accused of drug trafficking. His charges ended up getting dropped, but his wife was charged with tax evasion and both of them was deported to Canada. During the making of this episode, I went back to the block where the tunnel used to be. And this is how it looks today. The Chelsea Terminal Warehouse is being renovated or transformed into something new. But this is it, the legendary block of the Tunnel nightclub. I want y'all to tear that comment section up because I know y'all got some stories. Would y'all like to have seen the Tunnel Club stay open? And what would the Tunnel nightclub be like today? Thank you for watching. It's your man Sapreme, and you were just tuned in to another episode of The Real Rap Show, and this was episode 49 of The Real Rap Show, 27th and 12th, the story of the legendary Tunnel nightclub. Give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you can be notified whenever I drop a new episode of The Real Rap Show. Y'all stay safe out there. Real rap.